right?
No.
So, Jake, why did you go on the show?
My parents actually met in a very similar way. So my stepdad was texting my mum. He'd basically stolen the number off of a friend because the friend had met my mum in Blackpool, and they were texting for like 6 months. They'd never met. So that premise of how they got together and the marriage that they had was stunning. And to build a relationship not based on looks before you met, I just found that just incredible.
So do you believe in that concept? Is it lust or love at first sight?
It's weird.
It's a bit of both.
I think, it's definitely a bit of both. And I would say, as you get older, your looks will change, but your personality will stay the same.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for Headliners. 3 comedians taking you through tomorrow's top stories. Join us over the next hour to find out if it's better to be late than never, why these guys might be warming up to Ed Davey, and how bonfire nights changed since I was a kid. I'm Cressida Wetton, and my comedian panel tonight are made up of Steve N. Allen and Count Dankula. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Mark White.
Hello there. The main headlines from the GB News Centre. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris has formally conceded defeat. Vice President Harris spoke to hundreds of supporters in Washington. She told them she would do everything possible to help the new president-elect with a peaceful transition to the new administration.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer has telephoned Donald Trump to offer what Downing Street described as hearty congratulations for his win. Sir Keir said he looked forward to working closely with the president-elect across all areas of this special relationship. The Prime Minister also reflected on the crisis in the Middle East and underscored the need for regional stability. Earlier, Sir Keir and Kemi Badenoch faced each other at Prime Minister's questions for the first time. On the issue of farmers' inheritance tax, Sir Keir said his government was listening to the concerns of those in the agriculture sector. But the new Tory leader accused the Prime Minister of giving the people nothing more than stock answers.
Lines are showing that he has not even listened to the budget himself. But what does he say to farmers who are facing uncertainty about their futures as a result of the increased taxes announced by the Chancellor?
I'm glad she's raised farmers because the budget last week put £5 billion over the next 2 years into farming. That's the single biggest increase, unlike the £300 million, which was underspent under the last government.
4 migrants have died in the English Channel in less than 24 hours as hundreds of others crossed to the UK today. GB News filmed as some of the more than 300 migrants who made the illegal voyage arrived at Dover Harbour. They've been taken to the Border Force Processing Centre, and they've taken the number of arriving so far this year to almost 32,000. You're right up to date with the very latest news. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories. I'm Cressida Wetton and I'm joined tonight by Steve N. Allen and Count Dankula. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? It's been a while.
I'm good. I'm fine.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
I imagine it's been quite a big day for you.
Oh, yeah. I did not expect the result to go this way. I've been in cloud nine the entire day.
How about you? Shocked?
No, I mean, I didn't really watch much of it, so... Well, the people were saying, like, you're going to stay up all night and watch it. No, because the same result will be there. It's why I don't watch sport. Just tell me the result afterwards. I had a lovely night's sleep.
Brilliant. So the US election is just like sport to Steve. Excellent. OK, fair enough. Let's have a quick look at the front pages from tomorrow before we get into them. Let's start with the Daily Mail. No, I can't see that. We're just going to go straight to the front pages. OK, Steve, you've got the Daily Mail. Let's start with detail. That's what I want.
I can give you the headline. A comeback to Trump, all comebacks. Oh, it's good. It's good. In the end, it wasn't even close. I mean, yeah, the first pun, I mean, maybe it's the best one. Liberals in the US and Britain left bewildered and tearful. And that's true. I have seen some people online getting all upset about it, all kind of cryy about it. There's more of that. There are a few famous names who've cried. Obviously, Kamala Harris has done some fighting back tears, as we saw in the speech. But she kind of sounds like she's almost about to cry anyway on that.
Yeah, I can't tell the difference. To me, she always sounds like that.
To be fair, her accent changes depending who she's talking to, so it's very, very difficult to tell.
I do that, though. When I call a plumber around, I end up trying to sound like I'm, a plumber. I don't know why, I just try and blend in.
Or you put on the deep man voice and have him to convince him you're a man, even though you are phoning a plumber.
So, look, I mean, obviously, the Daily Mail, they've gone for, I think it's 19 pages of an unrivaled report and analysis, because it's pages 2 to 21. That's one of them, the biggest, if you look at all the other newspapers. They've certainly written many words about this.
And there are many words to be written. Good picture, isn't it, of course? He looks very strong. It looks like the old "your country needs you."
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. He's a very photogenic man, Trump.
Is he?
Yes.
The Lord Kitchener vibe is the opposite of what he's sold himself on. He's like the no war guy, isn't he? Like, your country does not need you right now.
Yes, first US president in a very, very long time to start no new wars.
So far, the night is young.
So far, yeah.
OK, let's have a look at The Guardian, please, Count.
I'm so happy I got The Guardian. And, of course, they're absolutely seething. They've just titled it American Dread with, like, the smug face of Trump.
Well,
because
most of the smug face.
Most of the smug face, I know, they cropped him out. They cropped out that gorgeous mug of his. Yeah, but it's like, they're obviously going to be seething. They're obviously going to be doomer posting on the front page, because, all crying into their lattes and stuff like that. But they should be absolutely thrilled. They now have something to complain and cry about and sell papers for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Right, I don't know why they probably are thrilled. They're probably trying to go, oh, how terrible. Oh, my God, the money. Right, like, they should be thrilled. I believe they are, but... Like, they obviously like to do more post about him. They like to scare everybody. Remember that whole, if Trump gets in, he's going to start putting homosexuals into camps and stuff like that, and that obviously never happened and everything, but that didn't stop them from saying stuff like that again this time.
I think you're right that they must love it. When the time when the Bush versus Kerry, where the Guardian asked its readers to write letters directly to people in swing states, they must have known that wasn't going to help. In fact, it would be the opposite. Like, having a Guardian reader tell you what you're doing wrong is like a London dinner party without the benefit of free food. So they must have known it was going to, if anything, make it work. And it did. All the pushback was like, how dare they? But it sold papers, didn't it? It pushed paper.
Yeah. It's like, see, at the end of his term, they're all going to be so sombre. You know, like when the supervillain loses the hero that he's fighting against all the time? Like, they're going to be sad that he's gone.
Like the end of Friends.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
OK, Steve, anything on the Telegraph?
Donald Trump gets a mention. Trump's clean sweep, which is getting... Hopefully that's not a pun, because if it is, it's a bit toilet-based. Every so often there's a Trump that requires a clean sweep, I think is what I'm trying to say there. President-elect wins powerful mandate as he takes Senate popular vote and every swing state in unprecedented political comeback. You can very much spot a theme in the way that they seem to be happy with it. They've got report and analysis pages 1 to 9. That's not a lot. They've got Alistair Heath for some reason on page 16. Comment on 17 and 19 to 20 gets a mention in business. They've written many words about this.
Many words. And it says remarkable victory piles the pressure on Starmer.
Very
different.
I did actually see Starmer congratulating him today on Twitter. And it was like, I just know for a fact he was crying as he typed that. And I mean, he was saying, you know, like, saying all the usual things that people say about Trump, but now he's like, oh, congratulations and everything. And it's like, do you hate him or do you not? Like, pick one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not like Starmer to have one opinion and then flip-flop later, so it's...
Not at all, no, not like him at all.
But you do want the Prime Minister to be a bit statesmanlike and diplomatic rather than start a war. You know, I'd rather him just be a bit fawning for a while.
With America, that wouldn't go well for us.
Exactly. This is why it's good for him to eat a little bit of, you know, crow or whatever.
Yeah.
Reasonable Stephen Allen, absolutely correct. OK, Count, let's have a look at the Times.
Trump promises golden age after sweeping Harris aside. I mean, he didn't just sweep her, he suplexed her out of the way, won the popular vote and everything. Was the first Republican to do so since George Bush back in 2004. And everything, and it's just like, things will get better. Crypto's already going up. The stock market's already going up. You know, everyone is positive. Nobody parts with their capital unless they think it's going to go somewhere, and everyone is doing it now. So people obviously see good things from a Trump presidency, like the economy is going to do better. I feel like the cost of living crisis is going to get better, inflation's going to get better, because these are all things he spoke about and says that he will prevent.
For them, yeah, like their economy, their cost of living crisis, their inflation could be good. But if he is the tariff guy, then it's an awkward time to be a nation trying to sell stuff to them.
True.
Fair enough. Steve, let's have a look at the Eye.
The Eye, landslide. This is about some issue with driving. No, it's yet again, it's another Trump thing. There's a picture of him there pointing to his favourite Melania body double, because he will bring about jobs, mainly in the sector of Melania body doubles. There's quite a lot of those. I think they are really a bit mealy-mouthed on the front page of the Eye, because they managed to mention at 78 he'll be the oldest leader sworn into office. Just get that little dig in there, as if he's not the guy that's got the age sort of Damocles hanging over him, is it?
No, absolutely not. He's still been going to these long rallies, carrying on into the middle of the night. We know he doesn't drink.
Doing 3 a day.
Right.
So he was doing 3 rallies a day.
Yeah.
You know, people always complain about him being a narcissist, and it's like, yeah, but you need that kind of energy, don't you? You need to like the sound of your own voice to that extent to be able to do that.
You're supposed to come across to voters as a big, massive, likeable personality and stuff like that. You're not going to get anywhere by going on stage and going, hello, vote for me. Yeah.
We've also got a story here. Apparently, David Brent isn't popular anymore with Gen Z. Zed.
Do you know what, though? I'm not sure. I was talking to someone last night, and we were saying that the millennials were a problem, but Gen Z actually have split into mini millennials and mini boomers. Right. So actually, we don't know. I don't really think you can say. I've often said this whole generation thing. It's more journalism than it is real. It's like it's astrology, effectively. All Capricorns are a bit like this. Like all people born between these 2 years.
Yeah.
It can't be true, because people born 4 years after me are in a different generation. But I'm meant to be more related to someone 11 years older than me. It makes no sense.
Gen Z is overwhelmingly more right-wing than millennials, though. They are.
Which is not the way that the newspapers are writing about it.
Yeah.
OK, and finally, let's have a quick look at the Daily Star.
I'm so happy I got the Daily Star as well, but at least they're taking it in stride. They're poking a bit of fun about it, like, well, this is awkward, and they're even poking a little bit of fun at David Lammy. How David Lammy, his infamous tweet, deluded, dishonest, xenophobic, narcissistic, Donald Trump is no friend of Britain, and now that he's won, congratulations, real Donald Trump, on your victory. The UK has no greater friend than the US, and stuff like that. You know, it's like that guy that you used to bully at work and then one day becomes the manager.
To be fair to David Lammy, and I think that's the first time that sentence has been said on this channel for a while, J.D. Vance called Trump a Nazi a little while ago and has swapped his opinion on it. So are we allowed to change minds or not? You've got to pick a side on that one.
I suppose a job with a fat paycheck would change your opinion. Yeah.
Hell of a sweetener. OK, that's the front pages looked at. Join us after the break for a look at Kemi's first PMQs, Khan's take on Trump's victory, and what it may or may not say about America's woman problem. Don't go anywhere.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Penelope's, which is situated in the sophisticated Hotel Armano in Covent Garden, delivers punchy dishes from the executive chef Fez Ozalgan. London-born, she's of Turkish Cypriot heritage, and at the tender age of 16, she enrolled at catering college. So, it's lovely to see you, Fez. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
So you're now in a very prestigious position. I'm always impressed that in the world of chefing, it's possible to get to very senior positions quite young, if you're good enough. Talent is rewarded, is it not?
Definitely, yeah. It does take a lot of hard work, for sure. But, yes.
When did you know that you wanted to be a chef?
Honestly, because my parents have a cafe in Barking. And I used to go there when I was younger in school holidays and weekends to help them. And actually, I'll be honest, I just used to really admire everyone calling my dad chef, and that's what I wanted.
And what about your food inspirations? Because I believe the food that you produce now is what? Mediterranean influenced and also to some extent Middle East influenced?
Yep, and Spanish as well at Penelope's, yeah. So our concept at Penelope's, our CEO, Ariel, he is Israeli, but he grew up in Marbella. So, yeah.
These are the great influences.
Yeah.
What have you brought here today?
OK, so we have our sea bream tartare, which is a really good inspiration of both Spanish and Israeli. It's marinated with harissa, and it's served with a really nice gazpacho sauce, caviar on top.
I wonder whether the camera can see that. It is the most gorgeous coloured sauce on top of my sea bream tartare. That's marvellous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Cressida Wetton, still joined by Steve and Alan and Count Dankula. We're looking at your say. Of course, Headliners viewers love abuse. And somebody has said, boring panel tonight, get Lewis on. But that somebody is called Willie Cockshot. So we know it's you, Lewis. We know who you are.
That's his real name.
He doesn't like to talk about that after the incident. Anyway, kicking things off with the Daily Mail and Future Steve. If you're reading this is me from 3 hours ago, wants to know if Kamala made her speech yet.
Yeah, well, they say sore loser Kamala still hasn't admitted that she lost as world waits for concession speech and Biden stays silent. Those two things have changed, but still you can make the argument of how long it took. There was a headline saying that Biden finally broke his silence about it, I imagine with the words, "I was president." It was just a shock for him. And then, yeah, the speech. Admittedly, yeah, it took a while, but she didn't wait till January the 6th. You know what I mean? What you're comparing it to, there's no absolute rush for this anyway. Like, yeah, she's already lost everything. Give her the chance to just not do this in a rush. And so, of all the things to criticise Kamala for, this is not it, I would say. But in the speech thing that she gave, she said, it doesn't mean we won't win. Yeah, it does. It's literally what conceded. But there was someone I was reading online about it. She managed to get 14 million fewer votes than Biden. That's the thing to look at. To stop and think like this is not all about Trump, big, scary, bad man. Don't make it all about that. Make it about your own side. What did you not sell to the people who should have voted for you, in your opinion, that they voted for Biden and not you?
Our entire campaign was just, I'm not Trump. That's it. There was no promises. There was nothing, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to improve this. There was none of that. It was just orange man bad. Yeah. That was it. That was an entire campaign.
It's almost as if joy is wasted on you.
There is no joy. There is no... Well, there's plenty of joy for me today. I'm having a great time. Not so much for Kamala.
But what do you think about it being late? Because I felt like it was late. It's like, come on, get it over with. If you failed, just come out and say it and get on with it. I think the longer you leave it, the more it builds.
To be fair, women take ages to get ready.
They'd like to. They don't always have the opportunity. And unusually for someone on her side of the culture war, Kemi's actually demanded an apology. Count, you've got this.
Yeah, Badenoch demands Starmer apologises to Trump in punchy PMQ's debut. I believe it's Badenoch just trying to cosy up to Trump now that he's in there as well. But it was a new Tory leader clashes with the Prime Minister over Foreign Secretary's previous comments about the President-elect. Kemi Badenoch demanded an apology from Sir Keir Starmer for David Lammy's past attacks on Donald Trump. I don't know why Keir Starmer's being asked to apologise for something someone else said and all that. And, you know, for me, when it comes to things you say, I would say don't apologise, double down. That man, like, I would respect him more if he just doubled down on it. But, I mean, it is pretty much an accepted thing that David Lammy says some really stupid stuff a lot. You just kind of treat him like the senile grandpa at the Christmas dinner that says some stuff and everyone just sort of pretends he didn't just say that.
I would love to have been a fly on the wall when they went for dinner. You know, Starmer came back and said, oh, was it lunch? We went out for a meal. And you think, oh, man, I would love that footage. That's an episode of First Dates I'd like to watch. You know, what was said?
Yeah, hopefully they played Trump the clip of David Lammy where he talks about the lack of police presence. You must have seen the clip where he stood there being interviewed by the news saying, and it's terrible, we've not seen a police officer around here all day. And just in the background is a police officer stood there. It's a classic David Lammy moment. So as long as you play that to Trump, it'll be right. Look, it's not as if... There are many people who've said nasty things about Donald Trump, and I'm sure he will hold a grudge, and at some point there'll be payback. But it'll be a long line. I'm not sure David Lammy's at the front of it. You know, there's loads of people.
Because he's not in a position where he needs to be able to talk to people in other countries. It's not. Don't you think he's quite an important person to be?
I think he's a terrible person to have the job.
Yes.
I don't know if this is going to be the top of Donald Trump's in trait. I think is what I'm saying. But this is all about Kemi's first appearance at PMQ.
Yes.
And the Telegraph really writes it up like it was an absolute win. There were a couple of fails that didn't even get mentioned. There was the awkward bit. I think she was very entertaining and makes really good clips. Mm-hmm. And the questions are really impactful. But the answers, he actually managed to not seem like Starmer wasn't too stressed by her approach. And there were bits where she said the budget didn't even mention defence. And he just goes, oh, what about page 93? And then there was another bit where she said, oh, you're just reading out your responses. And she read that bit out. It's like, oh, mate. So he easily just went, you're reading that. So look, it's early days for her, but I don't think it was a great performance.
It wasn't the roast of Angela Rayner, was it, that we saw before?
No.
She was killing it.
No, it definitely wasn't. But, I mean, she did say that apparently she wants to prove that the Labour government are above student politics, which is going to be difficult for a party that's comprised entirely of students. Because, of course, the skint students love Labour because they're going to love the party that promises free stuff.
Although that was, that's up to date until a couple of hours ago, or yesterday, when it was like, oh, tuition fees.
Yeah.
Fair point. We've got a classic case of psychological projection in the Daily Mail now, Steve.
Sadiq Khan says Londoners will be fearful over Donald Trump's stunning US election win as long-running feud between Mayor and new president revives. Yeah, don't be Lammy Mark II. This is the worst time to say things, because you might end up having to bump into him again. Also, don't be a victim, because if Sadiq Khan just said, I don't like this outcome, fair enough, well, you're allowed your opinions, but to say, oh, Londoners are anxious. I mean, that's just true. Everyone's anxious these days, it seems.
He doesn't speak for all of them. Maybe they're all anxious because London's dangerous because of him.
All the stabbings puts you on edge.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, don't be the victim of, like, oh, we're fearful about it. Just disagree with it rather than go, oh, I'm the victim of who's been voted in as a leader of a different country.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, lots of rhetoric about inclusivity, London's for everyone. I don't know if it's for you, Count.
Donald Trump's not in charge of London, so I don't know why. I think what Sadiq Khan means is he's afraid because he keeps beefing with Donald Trump, and he knows that Donald Trump's much better at it than him, and everyone, so that's what he's, like, worried about. I mean, he doesn't speak for all Londoners, so Sadiq Khan should just shut up.
Fair enough. This just seems to be the tone, though, that everybody on the left has taken. It's all about fear, isn't it? And nobody says, oh, that's a missed opportunity. It's always like, we're very fearful now. I've read a lot of that today. OK, the Eye now, and upsetting news about a plethora of new agricultural photo opportunities opening up for Ed Davies, Count.
Yeah, Labour could lose 59 marginal seats. Is this the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah, over
what
farmer...
I was getting at was we might see Ed Davey in a lot of dancing around on tractors.
Yeah.
It's a health and safety nightmare.
But
lose an arm.
They could lose 59 marginal seats over farmer inheritance taxes, and absolutely deservedly so. I don't know what's going on in the West, but for some reason, governments keep messing with farmers. I don't know what's going on with it, and it seems they're trying to... It almost seems like they're purposefully trying to get these people to lose their farms so that the state can then come in and buy them. Because there's actually a government buyback programme right now for farms on their website. They say, are you looking to sell your farm? We'll buy it. And then they're basically trying to make farming just completely unaffordable and non-profitable, so people are forced to sell their farms, and then the government takes them over. It's essentially what Stalin did, except Stalin just did it by force, but this is done with lawfare instead. Price the average, like, private people out of owning farms, so the government can just take them over.
Well, it does look very cynical, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, there's one take on this, which I wish... the messaging is definitely wrong, because the people who are trying to defend it are saying that there is an inheritance tax loophole, whereas if you've got an absolute ton of money, you can put it in land and then pass the land on without having to pay any inheritance tax. Find a way of... If that is your motivation, find a way of closing that loophole. I always say this with loopholes. Stop moaning about them, close them. And if this is trying to close them, well, no, you must realise the way you're closing it is going to get farmers genuinely working the land caught in this. There must be a way to stop rich people just buying land to pass on land to sell it later on or whatever it is. Outlaw it or do something, rather than this, which really seems to be catching within the group of people attacked, those people who make all that nice, tasty food I enjoy. And I like food. I'm on the side of food.
Yeah, the people that feed the 60 million people in this country, maybe it's a good idea to just leave them alone and let them get on with it.
Potatoes make crisps. We all love crisps.
That's what it's all about. You know, recently the floods in Spain caused us to lose a quarter of our fresh produce. I found that astonishing that one country was responsible for so much of our food security. So we need to grow more stuff, not less, is my point. OK, we've got a serious one in The Independent now, Steve.
20 men jailed over child rape and sexual abuse in Calderdale. 3 different investigations, 3 trials, terrible details when you get into it. The newspaper here doesn't actually mention race, but it lists all of their names. I'm sure other newspapers will be pointing out that there seems to be a thread of race. The thing that I don't get about this, though, is that 3 trials actually happened, so clearly the legal system did work. We only get the details now because we couldn't get details before to ensure good prosecutions, and those cases were linked. The positive here would be that maybe post-Rotherham there is no fear of saying, this is the thing, because that was the problem, the idea that you daren't move a complaint higher up for fear of racism. If that's gone, this could be good news.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, this all started in 2016, but as Steve says now, I feel like after the excellent work of Charlie Peters, probably people would be far less inclined to cover this stuff up.
Yeah. I think people are, especially like after what happened with like Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that, lots of women gained the courage to come forward and actually talk about their experiences that they had. I'm hoping that with what happened with Rotherham and everything, people now feel a lot more confident about approaching the police now that they might actually do something about it.
Yeah, good point. OK, closing this section with The Independent and a calm, rational look at what may have caused the candidate with drunk aunt energy. I haven't had a drop to lose the election, Steve.
They hate the women.
They hate the women.
Devastated Harris voters conclude America hates women as Trump defeats second female rival. Well, that's 2 of them. For a minute there, I thought it was spurious.
Trump has prevented the first female president twice. Just when you thought the guy couldn't get any more amazing.
It must be about hate. But so much... look, I mean, this doesn't prove that America doesn't hate women, but it doesn't prove that they do.
Exactly.
And there's one tweeter said, one thing America hates more than a rapist is a woman. What a stupid sentence. If that were the case, there'd be no rape laws. That's how I can disprove that sentence straight away. And also, I mean, I'm not here to be overly serious, but for the love of all that is good, stop and learn. If something's not gone your way, think, well, I didn't know all the information about the truth, the reality within a nation. Why don't I find out why people voted a certain way? Or it is quicker to go, no, they hate women. It's what happened with Brexit.
Infuriating, isn't it? And how bigoted to look at her and think that that's the first thing that we all see.
Yeah, it's not that we hate women, it's the fact that the women that they're putting forward for the candidacy are just extremely unlikable.
I mean, it offends me that she's the best they could find. That is just extraordinary to me. I promise my sex can do better than that.
I'm telling you, if you want a female president, someone hot. I'm telling you, I'm being serious. See, I guarantee you, the first female president of the United States of America will be someone hot. I'm telling you.
In your opinion, excellent. I don't know what you're into. We're halfway through, time for a break now. Stay with us to discover what the Church of England thinks of churchgoers, why we can't have Emily on headliners, Emily Maitlis, and what could cost you £900 in Switzerland. See you in 2.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. It's going to stay pretty cloudy, but generally dry as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. We still have high pressure dominating our weather. It is to the east of us, but nonetheless keeping things pretty settled, and any weather systems to the west of us are staying at bay. But with that high pressure, we have a lot of cloud. That cloud is going to be quite thick, could be quite low in some places, some hill fog through tonight in a few places, and also some outbreaks of drizzly rain. The greatest chance of any clear skies will be across northern parts of Scotland and the far north of England. The cloud will keep things pretty mild, temperatures for many staying in double figures, so a mild grey and for some damp start to the day for many tomorrow. Some places will have some sunshine through the morning, particularly northern Scotland. Some breaks in the cloud quite likely here. Across more central western parts, thicker cloud and a bit of drizzly rain quite likely, especially over any higher ground. Further south across Northern Ireland and the bulk of England and Wales, it is looking like it will be another grey, gloomy start to the day. There could be some hill fog around, perhaps not as much as we saw through today. Nonetheless, there will also be a few outbreaks of drizzly rain. Nothing heavy, and any drizzly rain shouldn't last particularly long. Most of us will actually avoid it, but yes, there could be some damp weather around. Staying cloudy, still just the best chance of any sunshine will be across the far north of Scotland, perhaps North Wales and eastern England. In the sunshine, not feeling too bad, and generally temperatures on the mild side, highs in the mid-teens for many of us. Spot the difference when it comes to looking at Friday. Again, lots of grey, cloudy skies across the UK. Still some sunshine breaking through again towards the north of Scotland, northern England, North Wales, the best chance of catching any sunshine. Staying pretty similar as we go into the weekend. Another grey, mostly dry day on Saturday and staying that way on Sunday in the south, but further north we may see some wet and windy weather for a time.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Opening this section with Thursday's Telegraph, and the C of E doing its very best to treasure the churchgoers it's still got, Gant.
Yeah, rural parishioners accused of racism by Archbishop's Review. Report by Independent Racial Justice Commission. I'm so happy my taxes are being used to fund absolute nonsense like that. Denounces a lack of cultural awareness displayed by congregations in some rural areas. And I've went through the article and they don't actually describe what cultural awareness means. Like, what culture are they supposed to be aware of? Like, you know, last I checked, Britain was a Christian nation. I think that's the only culture that they're supposed to care about. But it was just like, one thing that I've noticed as well is it's just been open season on Christians since like the 90s. Like, they're now getting investigated by government-funded programmes to see if they're woke enough and everything. And they were even saying some people felt turned away. Like, have you ever been to church? They do not turn anyone away. They're like dragging you inside.
It's like comedy. Nobody has ever turned away. That's the rules, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've noticed as well is like one of the things that we're complaining about is there's not enough white male leadership and there's too much white male leadership. And I went, right, so it's not just enough for you to be in the church, you also have to be in charge. That's the part that you were at. That's the bit that they're annoyed about.
They seem to be implying that the congregation don't want you there unless you're a white male with a posh voice, specifically working classes out, it says. But I would love to see the questions. That doesn't seem like something the average person would be saying.
And also through the whole thing, they call it the Queen's English. I'm like, oh, they need an update on that one.
Yeah.
You need to get with the programme. There's a lovely quote by the Reverend Dr. Ian Paul, which sounds like two people's names mashed up into one. But he points out that, there's like basically not enough Muslims in the C of E. There's got to be a reason why certain sectors of ethnic minorities don't join the church. They might be busy doing their own religion-y thing. But I think it's a whiff of the Midsummer Murders. There'll be some small villages and hamlets where, of course, you will end up with the person in charge of the church being some white bloke, because that's...
Who lives there?
That's the only people living there.
Yeah.
Women as
Yeah, I'm a country bumpkin. I really object to these countryside or racist type reports. It's just not my... I appreciate I'm white, but it's not my experience of being a countryside person.
Yeah.
Yeah, not into it. Anti-racism always means racism in the end.
Yes, it does.
OK, Daily Mail next, and evidence that Lewis Schaefer wasn't the most inappropriate political commentator on air last night, Stu.
The moment Emily Maitlis is pulled off air and calls Donald Trump bat, and then there's... Oh, there's an S. Bats, and then three asterisks. She sparked Ofcom row over expletive-laden US coverage. It was after the watershed, so I actually think they should have offered that. I would have tuned in for a show that is like election coverage with no holds barred, all the swearing. Would have been even more fun. But there's a bit... I mean, we know she was pulled off air. She was also recording podcasts at the same time. So when she wasn't in studio for a bit, there was a bit where on social media it looked like, oh, she's not going to be allowed back on, but she was back in the studio afterwards. And then she swore again. So, I mean, don't pretend that you're surprised that Maitlis has a side in this. They knew when they hired her. So I don't know, some people on social media seem to be like, oh, this is appalling and shocked, and let's write to Ofcom. You knew what you were getting, surely.
Well, I would have thought she was a professional who didn't swear in the presence of Krishna and Guru Murphy. I thought more of her than that. I thought she was, yeah, a professional.
Women do get hysterical sometimes. Like, it happens.
Oh, my pop's fallen off.
I was worried that I was the one going to get most of the hate. Your response is, women be tripping.
For balance, no, we're not, we're fine.
She says, struggling with her outfit. It's a great time to go all kind of...
my best... Do you know what? This has been my best show ever, to quote... No, he says worst show ever, doesn't he? OK, so Emily, it's not going to be the end of her career, is it? She's going to live another day.
No, she's going to be fine. I mean, I understand, OK, watershed stuff and all that, but, I mean, if people... Let people swear. Maybe not right now, but, like, yeah.
Isn't the point also that she should hold herself to a higher standard? Because the viewers don't necessarily... She's assuming everyone agrees with her, and that's a legitimate perspective, and it's quite rude to Trump supporters, isn't it?
I think that's true when she was working for the BBC, and the BBC's remit requires more balance and more due impartiality, whereas Channel 4, it's not funded from our licence fee, so it's kind of, you know, it's up to them. If you want to offend your advertisers, go for it. And I just think... no one would be offended if you're sitting down to watch Emily Maitlis. If you're team Emily Maitlis, that swearing isn't going to end her career. It plays well to her brand, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Very good point. OK, sticking with the Daily Mail and a fundraiser that Rachel Reeves hasn't thought of yet, Count.
£900 fines for wearing a burqa will be introduced in Switzerland next year. The country announces, now this is where I'm going to be nice, I'm not going to be offensive, right? The state should not be deciding what you can and cannot wear. Not in any way whatsoever.
Didn't expect that from you.
No, I do. Oh, no, see if I can bash the government, I will. But basically, I understand, like, there's some places that don't allow it for security reasons, like banks and airports and stuff. Fine, like, not a problem. But see, if you're just out in the street, you should be able to wear whatever you want. And I do think that maybe... some people are saying it's from a cultural perspective. We want to protect Swiss culture of... not getting involved in anything ever. But basically, like, I kind of see it from that standpoint, but they were also saying at large gatherings, you're not allowed face coverings, and that kind of raises my eyebrow a little bit about a lot of the facial recognition technology that's coming out, where basically the government wants to know where you are and who you were with at all times and everything. So I see this as a little foot in the door towards that, because all laws introduced are leading somewhere. They don't come in with the hard stuff first. They dip their toe with the nice little soft things like racism with freedom of speech. Like, you know, that's the way they get their foot in the door, and I see this as that.
On this, because I'm with you, but also, you know, there is an argument to say that, you know, culturally, it's not my taste that people choose to do this. And given what's happening in Iran at the moment, recently there was that student who decided to take her clothes off because she was being corrected by the morality police about the way she was wearing her hijab.
An extremely dangerous thing to do, yeah.
And so I'm a little bit frustrated with Western Muslim women. I don't really understand why they choose to carry on with it.
But you want them to stop, you don't want them to be forced to stop
by
the government.
Yes. But I also don't want to say I want them to stop. I do appreciate it's none of my business. I'm just outside of this looking in, think it's very strange.
I do see the burqa as like repressive, though. It's like it's not nice to force women to cover up. Like, I don't see it as a good thing, even if it's a cultural thing. I mean, if it's their choice, whatever, it's their choice. But I'm like, is it really your choice?
The government coming up with it.
Yeah.
Interesting, the idea that you have to show your face at mass gatherings because of facial recognition. It's interesting that they didn't try and split the difference and say, like, you can have a burqa as long as it's got this QR code on it, which would be the... But no,
You solved it.
I always solve it, and no one ever listens to my ideas. I don't know why. I'm with you. The government shouldn't be telling you what to wear or what not to wear. In France, they've got laws against where you have to wear Speedos in pools. It's exactly the same. Just don't tell people what to wear.
that's much worse.
You're right. That is much worse than this burqa one.
That offends everybody. OK, Steve, finally, The Telegraph can shed some light on why Donald Trump is such a hit with the ladies.
Money. Oh, no, it's a very different thing. Donald Trump and Olympics on collision course over transgender ban vow. So one of the things he was promising was to keep men out of women's sports. The rest of this article then goes on to say, but how will he do this? You don't care. This wasn't about finding the detailed way of getting the legislation in place. No, it was a promise, which he will probably try and deliver on, but it was exactly the right message that needed to be put out there, as you say, to get like a third of the female vote or something.
Yeah, I think far more than people were expecting.
Yeah. Actually, no, I think the third is for the ethnic minority vote, which even that is surprising. Like the way they broke it down, he managed to convince people that, you know, he will be helping them. And a lot of this comes down to that. It's either inflation, immigration, or this culture war issue, I guess you would call it over here. And that's what the left in America doesn't seem to work out. This is where you're losing battles. Stop trying to have your battles on that area, because that's why you're not getting the female vote.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are people who've we've gone over the line now with woke. They've had enough.
Yeah, they're dialing back the rhetoric as much as they can now, because they've realised it got so far where they demonised Trump to the point where there's been 3 attempts in his life now. One came very, very close, and you even saw the media panicking and starting to like dial it back. Oh, that's terrible, and it's like, yeah, but you caused this. If you go around telling everybody for years that this guy is literally the second coming of Hitler, what did you think the public were going to do?
He's up to the third coming of Hitler now, isn't he? By 2 terms.
Okay.
Exactly right. Closing this section with the Daily Mail, Ed Balls has had a fight with a man with big confidence.
So this was Hollywood MAGA comedian Rob Schneider. Furious. There was a rant. We saw the clip earlier. Ed Balls. They were arguing about whether Ed Balls said racist, is what it all boils down to.
Yeah, I think he said misogynist, I believe. Yeah, but they were debating on the
clip of the racist bit. But then Rob said he's tweeted it and I didn't get time to check, so there might be a clip on his Twitter.
Yeah, he was on Patrick Christie's earlier, so they're best mates now.
Friend
of the channel, Rob Schneider.
Yeah. No, but he was just basically holding them accountable for it, because the same thing that he's dealt with, we've all dealt with online. As soon as you disagree with any kind of leftist policies, you're all kinds of ists and isms like that. They just start throwing these words at you. These words don't mean anything to me anymore. I get called misogynist all the time. I've no idea why.
Surely not.
That clip again of women be tripping.
Yes.
There was some evidence for that. Right, just the last section to go. No going to bed yet. We've still got to talk about Bonfire Night, Prince Harry, and why you have to be careful when committing acts of criminal damage. See you in 2.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Serving some of the most talked about food in Chelsea, executive head chef of Number 50 Cheney, Ian Smith, has created a range of menus with a hint of the homeland, using the finest British ingredients sourced by trusted suppliers. Ian Smith was head chef at Jason Atherton's Social Eating House and spent time in the kitchens of the Galvin brothers. Ian joins me now to tell more of the story. Tell me about Number 50 Cheney.
Yes, so we are a beautiful restaurant down in a corner of Chelsea on the Embankment with an amazing team. And we really pride ourselves on, being an affordable luxury that people, really are wanting to return to week in, week out.
What's the view from your restaurant?
Well, you can see the Embankment, the Thames, and Albert Bridge, which is very nice.
Very nice.
Actually lit up. Very romantic.
And tell me a little bit about your philosophy. I was talking there about having a touch of the homeland, British food, seasonal food.
Yes. Yeah, I think, for me, great cooking is, with simplicity on finest ingredients, cooked with simplicity. ultimately, they're to be enjoyed through. Yeah, sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, it starts as a young person's business. You went into it very young, didn't you? 15?
Yes. Yeah, so I was 15. I sat in my parents' bedroom, called the Ritz, the Dorchester and Claridge's, and very luckily, a man on the end of the phone, 21 years ago, sent me on to a college course called the Specialised Chef Scholarship. 3 days later, I had a Ritz stamp letter through the post, and off me and my parents went, and luckily I got on the course.
And how old were you when you got your first responsibility, would you say?
I think the biggest responsibility in my career is today. Leading number 50 Cheney.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to the final section of Headliners. We've had a comment from somebody called Master of Parsnips. That's very countryside, kind of. I know him, we used to serve him in a pub. He says Danker based, but I think that means Count Dankula based.
Yeah.
Do you know that about yourself?
I have been called based once or twice, yes.
It's a cooking thing, isn't it?
That's, that sounds saucy, but...
All right, so final section of Headliners, opening this section with the Daily Mail. And Steve, Bonfire Night's changed a lot, hasn't it? It's more political now.
Yeah, well, it was kind of political originally.
Yeah. Someone tried to literally blow up Parliament.
Political reasons, I imagine. Not just like a housing issue. Nigel Farage and rioter Paula Reynolds and Southern Water among bonfire effigies at Lewis. Famous fireworks display. Every year they have some effigies and they burn them, and we're so used to this now.
Got an image of this.
And
this
the images of which one have we got? The Nigel Farage one.
Yes.
Yes,
here we go.
I mean, but so many people have been burned on these bonfires. We don't take. I might presume he doesn't take offence to this. Boris was on there, and there's always someone. I do think, from the point of view of another country, imagine if you're just flicking through international news and you see one day a year when the UK just burns an effigy of someone and just cracks on with the life. If any other country did it, we'd be like, these heathens. How dare they? And one day a year, we're like, it's a bit of a laugh, isn't it? Although at the Lewis event, 40,000 people attended, 4 arrests, so that's 0.1 per 1,000. At the Notting Hill Carnival, 334 arrests, over 1 million people. Still works out 0.3, so it is more. Oh, that was some jeopardy for a while, but I didn't know where that was going to go.
It's a good point in defence of the Notting Hill Carnival. Not that we're here to discuss that.
No, it works out.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That was the big surprise. 0.3 for Notting Hill Carnival, 0.1. So it is still safer to go. Who'd have thought? Still safer to go to the Lewis bonfire, unless you are Nigel Farage.
Good point.
Don't sit on the wrong place.
Yeah, that is a worry, isn't it? I mean, you're meant to have explosives here. That's the point.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Have you much experience making guys and effigies?
No, I haven't. I did actually cover Guy Fawkes on my channel just the other day as well. Apparently he hated Scottish people. Just hated him. But he did say, I'm not going to repeat it here on the air, but he had a few things to say to King James's face.
Sounds very wise to me. OK, let's move on. Things are looking tense for Prince Harry now. This is in the Sun, Count.
Yeah, Donald Trump hates stupid Harry. Now that he's president again, the prince's future in the US is at risk, experts say. Now, I hope he deports him. I think it'd be hilarious just to see Harry turn back up on the doorstep where I got kicked out. I need a place to crash. Sitting at Buckingham Palace. Yeah.
Frogmore's busy now.
But I mean, the thing is, see if he does actually kick him out, where's he going to go? Because we don't want him either.
It's going to be the Shamima Begum of the royal family. Terrible. You can't make him sailor. Steve, any thoughts on
Yeah, you can sit there in Cali.
It's a hot take I didn't expect. The Shamima Begum of a British royal. No, look, I suppose he just needs to say the book was a lie. He could so easily get out of it. On the visa, he said he didn't take drugs. In the book, he said he did take drugs, but... there's no proof, is he? Just like, oh yeah, I made that bit up, and he can say.
He was a student once. He's taken drugs.
That was he was in the news a few times, dressed up as a Nazi once as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it amazing that the drugs are the bigger problem? Steve, we're back in the Mail now. Don't you just hate it when this happens?
Yeah, this is a pro-Palestinian activist who claimed to have beheaded a bust of Israel's first president, also mistakenly took a statue of a CBE-winning professor, a guy called Harold Dixon, who, you think, well, you've picked the wrong one here. This was someone who was a chemist, someone who liked education, who pushed for women's education. Very much not what they were after.
Yeah.
Very much the opposite of what they were going for.
They still made their point, though, haven't they? I mean, we know what they thought they were doing.
Yeah, they did. But I think it's quite funny when you get cases of mistaken identity like this. Like, wasn't there a recent one where a woman went up and, like, started ripping down Israel flags and cursing Israel?
In a Greek cafe.
It was a Greek cafe and it was the flag of Greece. That's like, I love it when stuff like that happens.
But the names would have been written under the busts. I'm not a museum expert or anything, but normally there's a thing that says the name of the person right next to it.
Oh, I'm Steve N. Allen and I like facts. Fair enough. OK, Count, there's news in the Times of a possible collaboration with Louis Schaefer.
As Kim Jong-un shuns traditional calendar to bolster personality cult, and that's because, obviously, with dictators, their new year started on the birth of Kim Il-sung, because technically he's still in charge of the country even though he's dead, because I believe that North Korea is the only necrocracy. And that's the term, that's what they are, they're a necrocracy, and basically their new year started on Kim Il-sung's birthday, but now they're starting to go to the regular calendar, probably because their Windows programs don't work, because the calendars are all set wrong. Anyway. I know, to be fair, but I'm obsessed with North Korea as a nation. I think it's mental, the fact that there's only 20 approved haircuts, but you're only allowed to get the one the dear leader has only if it doesn't look nicer than his. And all that. It's like hyper-authoritarian places like that I'm obsessed with. Have you heard about the poo balloons?
Yes.
Yes, brilliant.
Yes,
they're amazing.
The headliner's regular story, actually. It comes up in
one of them
Daily
started a
Star.
fire. They actually managed to start a fire. See how they've got things inside the balloons that basically heat them up and pop them?
Yeah.
This thing landed on a roof and started a fire.
Did you get the thing in the balloon?
I don't. It's basically trash bags full of like nappies, like used nappies that they're floating over South Korea and
in a nation that's got like not enough food, throwing away poo does seem like a bit of a.
What are you suggesting?
No one's got any food going in. I don't know where they're getting it coming out.
Point. Fair enough. OK, finally, Steve, we close with the Daily Star. Tell us why America's gone nuts.
Yeah, how a dead squirrel became unlikely Donald Trump mascot and US election martyr. What a great word for it. So this is the story of Peanut the squirrel. There's some influences out of squirrel. Look, I don't like influencers, don't get me wrong. And I love squirrels. But they had this squirrel, and there was a raccoon as well involved, but it's all about the squirrel.
His name was Fred.
Oh, yeah, I should respect
the raccoon.
Poor departed. And you're not meant to have squirrels, as it turns out. And some neighbour complained about the squirrel noise. And so
she's deleted all of her social media, by the way. She's in hiding.
What happened to Lily Allen when she returned a rescue dog? And she did that sort of properly. This person's... I mean, it's like Batley Grammar. They're never going to be able to leave the house. It's pretty serious.
Yeah, it was like... She was just a complete Karen. And I don't like the fact that the state should decide whether or not you can own an animal. And it's like, if it was a tiger or something, OK, but it was a squirrel.
Yeah.
Why did they send 6 agents around to the house to arrest... They kept them in custody and were questioning them. And then basically the squirrel... The owners, not the squirrel. But like, apparently the squirrel like bit an agent based, right? But and then they put the squirrel down. And this is the thing that I pointed out as well. What happened the last time Trump won the election?
I've got to go to the papers. I'm so sorry.
They shot Harambe.
The show is nearly over. Let's take a quick look at Thursday's front pages. The Daily Mail has a comeback to Trump all comebacks. The Guardian has American Dread. The Daily Telegraph has Trump's clean sweep, and the Times has Trump promises golden age after sweeping Harris aside. I has landslide, and the Daily Star has, well, this is awkward. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Stephen Allen and Count Dankula. Josh Howie will be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. He's joined by Carey Marks and Leo Kearse. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then please stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather forecast, coming to you from the Met Office. It's going to stay pretty cloudy, but generally dry as we go through